If you are watching this channel for the first time, it's your boy Mr. Ghana, baby. Don't forget to support this brother, MD90, not MD60. So you know what? Subscribe and be part of this family. It's all about Africa to the world. Support Zambian YouTubers.
Well, the country's vice president has made a statement that has the public talking, and that's the statement you see on screen there, as reported by the Daily Nation. So, Mutaina Lumango made that statement. That's the country's vice president. She said UPND to rule for 50 years. Then Lumango, she says the opposition is so disorganized and keep fighting amongst themselves, making them unable to provide UPND with the right checks and balances so that we can work together for the good of the people. So they say the opposition, she says in particular, the opposition is disorganized, and as a result of that, UPND is going to rule for 50 years. That's a statement coming from the UPND vice president and the country's vice president there. Obviously, you expected the opposition to respond to that. So Emmanuel Mwamba responded, and he says UPND will only rule for 5 years. And then he puts an exclamation mark to his point there. And then he puts up some articles and newspaper extracts to give an example of how such statements are not new. People have made such statements. And this is one of them. So this was from 2014, actually. So our government cannot be changed like underwear. Give us 20 years, Scott. So that's the statement that we had to Guy Scott then should have been the country's vice president in 2014 there in the Post newspaper, which is non-existent at the moment. It was liquidated, and yeah, pretty much this used to be run by Fred Membe. So you can see PF did not rule for 20 years, and Scott says I'd made that statement. So Emmanuel Mwamba was simply putting up a point to say, this is not new. The people that decide are the general public. But it's Samuel Mulenga Mwewa. This is a lawyer and legal person in the Socialist Party, that's Fred Membe's team, says everyone needs to leave Zambia for a while. The country needs some space alone to think. So simply saying what the country is going through, the country needs space to reflect on what's going on, because it's wild. The electricity and the number of things that are going on in the nation. So you just pick up a light moment in that. Why is a mass newspaper? And then Shishua responded to that. So tell Hichilema that people will win. They always do. So that's a response probably to Diana Lumango's statement to say the UPND is going to rule for 50 years. Shishua says the people eventually win, and that has always been the case, as reported in the mass newspaper there. So these bold statements, I do not know why politicians do this. Just do right by the people. You will not have to, like this thing of speaking things into existence. Once you do the right thing, people will be able to be evaluated. And Zambians have proven themselves to be very capable of evaluating and assessing the performance of a government. So you speaking it up to say, no, we've over-delivered, we will actually do 50 years, go on the ground. If the people confirm that, then good for you. Then it's going to be that way. But otherwise, if you just sit as a team or a cabinet and decide to say, no, I'm going to do 50 years, and the people say otherwise, then what is going to go left? And people will be in shock. So this is not new, making these statements. PF said 20 years, UPND is saying 50 years. PF never did those 20 years they wanted to do. Anyway, let's move on to the next news item. So earlier on, PF, the one that is headed by Edgar Lungu, is currently holding a central committee meeting, in Lusaka today. So this was posted when the time the committee meeting was happening. So you can see Given Lubinda on the far left, Raphael Nakachinda on the right of Edgar Lungu, and in the center you see former President Edgar Lungu. So they held Central Committee meeting. And as you are aware, there officially at this moment there are two official PF versions. The one that is run by Mao Sampa and the one that is run by Edgar Chagwa. And then there's a cohort that is coming from Mao Sampa's team, a breakaway, which makes them three. But the ones that have the court case, it's the one that is between Edgar Chagwa and Mao Sampa. So some of the highlights that were presented by Raphael Nakachinda after the meeting says the Central Committee called for discipline in the party despite the current status. The Central Committee urged the local committee led by George Chisenga to resolve and clear all outstanding disciplinary cases. What is another item that was tabled near the Central Committee? Also presented an urgent ad hoc committee to look into the association of with political alliances. So simply they are evaluating where they stand, whether to stay in the UKA alliance or that one that was recently formed, the Tonse alliance. They will decide which best suits them. That's one of the things that Raphael Nakachinda highlighted. The third thing that the Central Committee recognized the 10th anniversary of His Excellency President Michael Chilufya Sata Memorial, which is due on the 28th of October 2024. The Central Committee urged PF members and Zambians to actively celebrate in memory of in the memorial activities. So simply saying they are likely to do something big on that day as they commemorate the former President Michael Sata and the founding president of the Patriotic Front on the 28th of October there. What else did this committee look into? The Central Committee urged members of the party and Zambians to participate in the Day of National Prayer due on the 18th of October 2024. So simply saying PF should be very active on that day, participating in prayer and fasting. Should be Edgar Lungu the one that had declared that holiday. So simply saying the PF is going to participate in that. What else did they look at? The fifth thing that he says, the Central Committee called for Patriotic Front members and the Zambians to participate in the current voter registration and mobile NRC issuance exercise. So they say if you are eligible you're of age, get the NRC in preparation, obviously, for the 2026 elections. And yeah, what's the last thing that this committee, the Central Committee, also received an update on the current court matters, especially the legal case related to the purported expulsion of the 9 members of parliament, the legal decision and declaration of Kawambwa and Pambeshe seats as vacant, and the status quo of the party and others. So, and it issued by Raphael Nakachinda, Secretary General of the Patriotic Front. So those are the things happening in the Patriotic Front. Obviously, Chief Eteri was paying attention, said PF Central Committee in progress. I expect a lot from there. We'll talk tomorrow at 20 hours. So he was following the committee meeting virtually. And also the Zambia Daily Mail says UKA is a failed project. This statement is attributed to Dan Pool. The leader says the alliance is dead, not going anywhere. But this was something that everyone had predicted, to say in UNCA, it seems like most of the presidential candidates were doing auditions. They were expecting that the other candidates are going to be so impressed by their leadership traits that they will eventually endorse them. Same thing. The only person that seemed to be willing to work with others or work under others is simply Edgar Lungu. He was giving out that energy. The rest of them, it was clear cut to say they wanted to be the ones that are endorsed as president, and then they get the endorsement and backing from Edgar Lungu. And obviously, it seems to have failed, and that's why most people avoided it. Some of the other opposition that are very strong, that is Fred Membe, KBF, they simply stayed their way because they knew if you do not address who's going to lead it, eventually that is going to come up, because you can only have one candidate on the ballot. You can't say an alliance and then all of the presidential candidates contest. Then what's the purpose of that? You might as well just stay individual parties and give it a shot. So it seems like Uka, anyways, others are saying he's still alive. Edgar Lungu just put up a statement earlier on, should have been 24 hours ago, saying he's still part of Uka and is a representative of the PF in Uka Alliance. We'll see how that plays out eventually. But as long as it's not addressed who's going to lead it, they're just going in circles. No matter how much they try to pop it to say it's still alive. What is the news digger's response to Mopani faces the public? What is explains Zesco's campaign for people to use alternative energy. And this is ministers have ceased to be MPs. They have been stolen from the people, no longer represent them. So Haivam Dudu, they did a press brief via, should have been Let the People Talk or Hot FM Hot Seat, where he simply says the people that have been appointed as ministers in this current government are no longer representing their constituencies. They are focused on duties, ministerial duties, as opposed to their constituencies, according to Haivamududu there. But anyway, the people will eventually decide at the right time. It's time to vote whether the MP had delivered or performed. If not, we expect new members of parliament. I'm determined to create a better Mandevu for generations. Kasikiri, probably that's another candidate that intends to stand in Mandevu there. Let us spread love. Kateka, that's a member of the Uka Alliance. So that's part of the news, ladies and gentlemen. In case anything comes up, I'm going to report it for you. Have a good night or good morning, depending on where you're watching this from.